Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is James continuing on with this Balsa USA Smoothie build. So in today's video, I'm going to be installing the servo mounting rails inside the fuselage. And those are going to be located right in this compartment here. Now, I can access this area through the wing when I take the wing off, and also I can access it through the top by taking off this hatch right here. And what I did in an earlier step is I installed the control rod kind of outer tubing, and I left them long so that I can help so that it would help me locate correctly the location of the servos. So the servos are going to be mounted in here sort of like this on those rails, and then looking down on them they'll be in here. There'll be 3 of them obviously inside here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to trace the location of the servo on the inside of the fuselage here, and that'll be sort of like my basis for putting the rails in. So let me go ahead and start by doing that. To start with, I'm going to be using these Futaba S3004 servos. Now these are just standard analog servos. These are not digital, and they're just a basic servo. They're relatively cheap, and I've had a lot of success with these. I don't actually get too complicated when I set up my radio. I use kind of a simple setup. But in any case, so I am using these Futaba, and here's one that I think this one's actually one of my dummy ones. I think this one was in a crash, so I kind of use it to help me kind of locate things like I'm going to be doing here. So let me get this wood out of the way for now. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see this. My servo is going to be right about there. Let me hold this down with my thumb, and I'll be able to get to it. I want to make sure I can get to it from the top. Obviously I need to be able to screw it onto the rails. So it's going to go right about in that location. I may move it forward a little bit more, just so I have a little bit more room to work. Somewhere right about there. All right, let's see if I can trace this carefully. Really the important part is kind of just where those mounting tabs are. And I'll check it to make sure it's straight. This will get me where I need to be. Let me pull this off of here. All right, so it may be a little bit hard to see, but I have just the outline of the servo that I just traced right there. So hopefully you can kind of see my mark in there. So I want to measure down using this is the ruler from, or the scale from my square. I'm going to measure down to where that mark is coming off of the top of the fuselage here. All right, so what I'll do is I'll set my square, and I'll measure the same marks on this side of the fuselage. Right about there. So now you can see I have it marked over here, and I also have it marked over here. And now that'll give me a starting point to make the measurements for these little rails. Now I'll just measure the width of the inside of the fuselage. Just push this right there like that. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut these a little bit longer, just a little bit, and I'll sand it to fit. Okay, so I made a little mistake. What I did is I measured from the outside to the inside. And I should have measured obviously from the inside to the inside. So when I went to go mark my rails, I was too long. So I'm a little bit too long on these. I'm about, what is this, 1/8 inch? So I need to cut at least an 1/8 inch off each one of these, and I'll do that right now. Okay, so I did a test fit of these, and I will say that they're off. Up here where I measured it, I got the fit really close. But then when I go to put it down where it's supposed to go, it's off by, it's too short. It's off by about, it looks like it's about a 1/16 of an inch too short. So it's not too bad, maybe a 32nd of an inch, but it's still too short. I want these to be up against the side of the fuselage. So what that shows me is that there's a slight sort of like, it's a little bit off the fuselage sides, meaning that's a little bit open toward the center. Let me see what the bottom looks like here. Yeah, so the bottom is the same. Again, I want those to be kind of snug up against there. I don't want them to be loose. So now I'm going to go ahead and have to recut these. All right, so luckily I have extra stock that I could use. So I'm just going to go ahead and add, just to make it safe, I'm going to add, I'll put about 1/8 of an inch or so on here. Then I can always sand it down to fit from there. And this guy will go on this side like that. Okay, so that's how they're going to go in there. All right, so now I'll just go ahead and test my servo to make sure it fits in here okay. Gotta line these up a little bit better. I'll just drop it in here for a little test run. All right, so it'll be in here like this. I'm going to do one of these at a time, and I'm going to use my square to help me kind of keep it at a right angle inside the fuselage. Now I'm just going to go ahead and use my CA. Oops. And right there. It's a lot of CA, so I'm going to let that sit for a second. So the next step is a little interesting. The instructions have you kind of build a little kind of brace for the two rails using kind of scrap balsa sheeting like this. This is, I think, is 1/8 inch that I'm going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out 2 pieces, and then what you'll do is cut out the kind of the rail itself, so you can kind of slot it on top of there. So I'm going to cut out a couple of those pieces and see how that works. Okay, so these aren't going to be exact, so I'm just going to estimate how long they're going to be. So I'm going to go, I think from here, maybe make a little bit longer. Somewhere about there. That. Then I'm going to go maybe about, they kind of show it about 1 inch wide. In fact, I'll just use my ruler. This will work. All right. And then put it down like there. Now I'll mark the rails on here. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to, this is going to come from the bottom. So I'll just flip it upside down. Something like that. That. Okay. Okay. Cool. Now this guy's going to go like that. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to mark it approximately here and here. And that acts as a brace for the rails. So now I just got to do one for this side, and hopefully all I have to do is trace it. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see those. There's one here, and there's one here. And let's glue those in with a thick CA. And what I'm using for that is just this. I'm just basically using this Loctite. It's basically a thick CA. All right, so there are the rails now mounted in there with their little support braces on the sides. So now what I'll do is I'll just trim just to kind of get them out of the way. I won't trim them fully back completely, but I'll just trim them off these control rod outer tubes. Okay, now I'll just go ahead and drop the servo in for a little test run. Just like that. Okay, so there we have it. The servo rails are now mounted in there. So I'm not going to mount the servos at this point. That's going to be one of the last steps that I do. So I'm going to pull the servo out of here and move on to our next step. All right, so that's going to be about it for now. Upcoming steps are going to be, I'm going to have to paint or coat the inside of the engine compartment. I'm probably going to use a epoxy resin for that to help protect it from fuel. I'm going to have to kind of open up this bulkhead here to accommodate the fuel tank because I had to move the firewall back to accommodate the engine. This space got a little bit smaller in here, so I'm going to have to cut this open so that I can get the fuel tank in there. And then also going to be doing the covering using a Monokote. So yeah, I'm getting closer. I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, so thanks for watching my channel. I always appreciate everybody who's subscribing and the viewers and the comments. And check out those comments because you can learn a lot from people on there. I learn a lot from everybody. So again, I really appreciate that. All right, so thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.